Hello, Jacksonites. And I know that I said I will be continuing Super Kaiju Binge, but you know what? I'm just not going to limit myself to a schedule anymore. Super Kaiju Binge episodes will come out when they come out. When I want to do a video, I'm just going to do a video on what I want to do. So, okay. Um, over the past week, um, since Halloween and November have gotten me into a big horror movie mood, I decided to check out a franchise that heard a lot about and have been kind of mildly curious over the years about. And technically, you could say I grew up with these because first one came out in '04 and the last one came out in 2010, or well, second to last one. And this franchise has a huge cult following, and I finally just broke down and decided to get this. And this franchise, thankfully, it's one kind of like the Friday the 13th series. It's one thing you can say about them is that they're always relatively inexpensive. Over the past week, I have been watching the Saw franchise on Blu-ray, of course. I now have all 8 Saw movies, and I've seen all 8 Saw movies. Last year, I watched Saw 1 and 2 for the very first time, and I had intentions on continuing watching the series, but for whatever reason, I just never got around to finishing the series. So I actually ended up giving those away. But less than a month ago, I got my hands on another box set of the Saw series with Jigsaw included. And I finally just said, you know what? I want to watch the Saw movies. So I did. And I just watched the 8th film last night. And since I will never review these movies, I kind of toyed with reviewing these movies last year because last year was the 15th anniversary of the original Saw, so I wanted to do a series called 15 Years of Saw, but I just never got around to doing it. But like the Friday the 13th movies, I really feel like reviewing this franchise would just be an exercise in insanity because I would literally just be talking about the same things again and again and again. Though here, there's only 8 movies, whereas with Friday the 13th, there's 12, but still it is a similar enough issue. So I will only be ranking this franchise, as the title suggests. Today I will be ranking the entire Saw franchise. Now, I want to get this out of the way. By no means am I a diehard Saw fan. Like, I haven't seen Saw Point 5. I didn't even know there was 2 Saw video games until 2 days ago. I didn't know there was, well, that this doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know that there was any Saw comics. Haven't read those, haven't played the video games, haven't seen Saw Point 5. I've just seen the main 8 films. So I would definitely say that I am a novice fan, but I do eagerly await the release of Spiral from the Book of Saw, directed by the same guy who directed Saw 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, Saw 2, 3, 4. So I do eagerly await that, and I'm curious to see how Chris Rock and Samuel Jackson will fare up against Jigsaw himself. But well, aside from that, I do respect the Saw series. I do definitely consider it to be one of, maybe not the best, but one of the more unique and certainly very consistent horror movie franchises out there. And also, I say horror lightly. These movies never scared me. I just consider these to be, I don't call these torture porn. I really, really don't. I do not call the Saw films torture porn. Hostel, that's torture porn. Absolutely. And the Saw franchise gets a lot of flack for becoming torture porn as the series went on. I don't agree with that at all. I don't consider the Saw franchise to be torture porn. I just consider them to be gory crime drama thriller films. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I don't call these really horror films, but they are labeled as horror movies. So I would definitely say they're one of the most consistent in quality. and definitely deserve to make, as a whole, over $1 billion. So that's cool. So, with all that being said, let me grab my list out of my phone. And let us rank the Saw franchise, shall we? This might be a bit of a shorter video, so I do apologize for that in advance if it is. A big reason for that is just because I really don't have a whole lot to say about this franchise. I like it, and I think it's a good series, but they all just kind of blend together as just a one collective mass of good, nothing more, nothing less. But of course, there is my least favorite of this entire series, and that's got to be Saw 3, coming in at number 8. All the reviews that I'd seen for Saw 3 really kind of turned me off of watching the series. Like, I watched part 1, thought it was good, and then I went into Saw 2, and then I saw reviews for Saw 3, and I was, especially James A. Janisse from Dead Meat, when he made the main character of Jeff from Saw 3 into the slow ass motherfucking Jeff meme, which is funny. But when I watched Saw 3, I finally got around to it, and I was like, oh, yep, I was right. Saw 3, in my opinion, really suffers from a couple of things. One, these movies don't need to be 2 hours long. Weird coming from me, because I always say, hey, longer movies are always better. They make them at least 2 hours, so that way you get good bang for your buck. With the Saw series, no, I don't think they need to be 2 hours long. Saw 3 is 2 hours long, and I think it's too long. It suffers from, in my opinion, feeling like it has Sinister 2 syndrome, because all the stuff with Tobin Bell as John Kramer and him having his backyard brain surgery, which I'll talk about that in a minute. And all this stuff with his apprentice and his doctor trying to treat him, all this is fine. But the stuff with Jeff and his test and his games, as he slowly plods his way like a sad puppy dog from trap to trap to trap, and failing miserably in saving these people, and waiting till literally the very, very, very last minute to try to save the people who are trapped. It's very, very, very tiresome, very tedious, and incredibly frustrating to watch. And it leads to this movie feeling like it has Sinister 2 syndrome. And these two plot lines don't converge until the very last minute in a twist that literally feels like it comes out of nowhere. That's the main issue that I have with Saw 3, is that the shit that's going on with Jeff, I don't care about. Yes, they try to make him a sympathetic character because Jeff is very bitter and angry over the death of his son, which he never got over, and his relationship with his wife is just falling apart because he just refuses to move on. But a lot of the shit that happens in this movie is because Jeff is just an unlikable asshole. He's bitter, he's mean, he's whiny, he's bitchy. He's just a slow-ass, dumb motherfucker. And watching him slowly plod his way through his traps is incredibly frustrating. But where the film shines is all the stuff that's going on with Jigsaw. I don't really give a shit about Jeff. I just care about what's going on with Jigsaw. I'm going to say this right now. Watching the entire Saw series has made me realize Tobin Bell is a very, very unappreciated actor. This man truly does have some good acting chops in his skill set, and this series really does have, like, its best moments to shine is when Tobin Bell is on screen acting his ass off. And Tobin Bell spends nearly the entire movie laying on a gurney, and he still manages to be incredibly intimidating and incredibly menacing. Similar to Angus Scrimm as the tall man, but in a different way. Um, but yeah, watching Tobin Bell in this movie is very entertaining. How he, again, he still manages to come off as being this incredibly all-powerful, intimidating villain, despite the fact that he's 90% dead from brain cancer, and he's just laying on a table the whole movie. But, and when I say brain cancer, I will give this movie credit in showcasing that. Now, I'm not very squeamish. Actually, not very at all. Like, I've seen some gory ass movies. I sat through the first Hostel, didn't really bug me. I mean, I didn't like it because it was just not a fun movie to watch, but none of its gore got under my skin. I watch zombie movies. I watch violent slasher movies. I watch violent movies all the time, and I watch gore movies all the time. And the Saw franchise is a very gory series. This was the only one that kind of made me cringe because watching Jigsaw have this backyard garage brain surgery executed on him to decompress his brain, that one made me cringe. If those of you don't know, decompressing somebody's brain happens when somebody has brain cancer and there's a tumor growing in there. Now, of course, you might guess your cranium only has so much space. And so when your brain starts to swell, it's going to start pressing against your cranium. And when that happens, you don't receive as much oxygen to your brain, so you start having seizures. When someone goes in to decompress your brain, they cut open a piece of your skull, and they go in there and they remove the tumor, and that decompresses your brain. That makes it shrink, so it's not pressing against your cranium anymore. Obviously, that requires a team of surgeons, lots of anesthetic, and a sterile, very, very sterile environment. In an abandoned warehouse that's just one step above just being a textile plant where Jigsaw is located. It's not the most ideal space, but watching this brain surgeon drill 4 holes into John's cranium and taking a saw and cutting out a square of his skull made me cringe and like made me kind of squirm in my seat and almost look away because it just was almost making me gag. So I will give a movie credit when it does that. But really, yeah, Saw 3 I definitely think is the weakest link in the series because of Jeff and its runtime. It's too long, and watching Jeff fail miserably at his games is so frustrating. Coming in at number 7 is Saw 2. A lot of Saw fans consider Saw 2 to be one of their favorites, and I really was not impressed when I watched Saw 2. Not long after watching the first Saw movie, I was like, okay, this is a decent premise. The only praise that I will give Saw 2 is once again all the stuff with Tobin Bell. What? What?
Why you gotta face that way?
Because I like it. I will. Sorry. All the stuff with Tobin Bell and its better use of its slightly increased budget. Other than that, I just found Saw 2 to be kind of dull. It wasn't very entertaining. It kind of moved along at a very slow and trudgy pace. It's got some really bad acting, which unfortunately that kind of plagues the whole Saw series. It gets better in the last few installments, but still, the acting has always been kind of hit and miss throughout the series. But I think honestly the acting is at its worst in Saw 2. There's just a lot of really either intentionally or unintentionally exaggerated and over-the-top acting in Saw 2. And a lot of times it just feels really distracting and piss poorly handled. So not really much to say about Saw 2. It's not terrible. It's just not very good. Again, the only scenes that I liked were the stuff with Tobin Bell. It also felt kind of a bit sequelitis-ish because the first movie was such a hit. They were just like, okay, do that again. And it's not as bad as a lot of other famous sequelitis sequels out there, but Saw 2 definitely felt like it was hitting a lot of the same beats from the first movie. Hello. Anyway, yeah, Saw 2, I didn't really care for it. Not much to say. I just think it's the most forgettable Saw film of the whole series. Like the first one is memorable because it's the first and it revolutionized a new era of horror. Saw 3 unintentionally because of slow ass motherfucking Jeff. Saw 4 because it introduced a new storyline that carried to part 7. Saw 5 because it's good. Saw 6 because of its message, which I'll get to later. Saw 7 because of how bad it is, and Jigsaw because it gets so much hate. And then there's Saw 2, which doesn't really have anything to give it any kind of recognition aside from just being the first sequel and also having Mia from 2.5 Men in it. And also having Donnie Wahlberg. Never mind. So yeah, Saw 2 is just the most forgettable. I don't have much to say about it, and I just didn't care for it. At number 6, we have Saw 7. I refuse to call it Saw 3D or Saw the Final Chapter because Saw the Final Chapter was illegitimized because of Jigsaw, and Saw 3D is just a terrible title. And if my brother was here, he would just say, I just call it trash. And that seems to be the general consensus. A lot of people who are Saw fans generally seem to agree that Saw 7 is the weakest link in the series. I can see why. It's got a really cheap look to it. The 3D effects are completely pointless, completely useless, serve nothing to the overall story, and it was just the producers trying to take advantage of the newly increased 3D fad that was going on at the time. And it has a serious lack of Tobin Bell, and it's also got pretty fucking shitty special effects. The practical effects in terms of the traps are fine. The CG and digital effects look like shit. And also the gore took a massive step down. All the fake body parts that are sawed or cut or torn off look pretty damn fake. They look very rubbery and they look very plastic. And the blood in this movie looks like total shit. It looks almost pink. And, blood is supposed to be a very, very dark reddish color. And here it's so bright, it really does look almost pink. And it looks really distracting. Also, this movie has some of the most ridiculous traps of the entire series. And it just feels like a very unsatisfying conclusion to the Saw series when they were trying and banking so hard on marketing. This is going to be the big, epic final conclusion to the Saw series. And they tried. They really tried to wrap up the whole series. But in the end, it just felt like another Saw movie. It didn't feel conclusive. It didn't feel like a finale. It just felt like a big anniversary film. But even then, it failed too, due to them bringing back Carrie Elwes as Dr. Gordon. The ending twist, I don't really think they punched hard enough. But that being said, it was entertaining at least, and it does have some decent traps in it, and it has some good moments. But also, we have another slow ass motherfucking Jeff character in this film, and also some of the female characters that get killed off in this film are completely pointless, i.e., Bobby's wife, when she gets the bronze bull trap, as I call it. Totally unnecessary, very mean-spirited, and very hard to watch. Probably aside from the twisty-turvy dude from Saw 3 as the most difficult trap to watch in the entire series.
Or the one with the bitch with the key in her neck.
Or that one, too. Yeah, that one was pretty hard to watch as well. So, yeah, Saw 7. I don't think it's that bad. It was entertaining, and it wasn't like hair pulling out, rage inducing bad, but it was definitely time for the Saw series to end for a while, because if you have 7 movies over the course of 7 years, shit's going to get stale pretty quick, if you ask me. But again, I don't think it's that bad, but it definitely is one of the weaker installments in the series. Oh, and we finally get to see the damn reverse bear trap be actually sprung on somebody in action. It's just a shame that it happened to be John's wife, Jill Tuck. But the effect was good. Coming in at number 5 is Saw 6. My main issue with Saw 6 is the fact that it just beats you over the head so hard with the insurance corporation is corrupt, and it just it is, yes, and it just lets people who are more likely to survive live, and those who are going to die just lets them die and make money off them. Yeah, okay, guys, we get it. You hate the insurance companies. You hate the insurance industry. It is crap, but you know what? This did lead to a reform of the insurance corporation. It's still corrupt, but it's not as bad as it used to be. But outside of that, the traps are entertaining. The final kill with the main insurance dude getting melted into a pile of blood and goo with hydrofluoric acid was pretty gnarly. And also, once again, where this movie shines is all the scenes with Tobin Bell, especially when he chews out the main insurance dude. I love how we know that he's comparing these guys to piranhas by just looking at the fish tank full of piranha, and then he says, piranha. And then he turns around and looks at the main insurance guy, and we know that he's saying, yeah, you guys are just a bunch of leeches. Again, Tobin Bell's performance is really good in this movie, and it's very entertaining. The traps are decent, and overall, it is pretty tense overall. But just my main issue with it is that it just beats you over your head with the insurance companies and insurance industry is crap message. Like, okay, guys, we get it. Move on to the Saw stuff. Oh, you're going to focus on the insurance stuff? Why? And it's kind of a shame that Saw 6 is to this day the lowest grossing installment of the Saw series, making only $60-something million against a $10 million budget. And how the hell did Saw 7 cost $20 million? Probably because of 3D effects. So there, I just answered my own question right there. But anyway, moving on. At number 4, we have the original Saw. Good movie. It definitely was very different, and it shook the horror industry to its core when it came out. Made $104 million against a $1.2 million budget, and was directed by the same guy who would later go on to direct Aquaman. Yeah, James Wan. Damn. Talk about moving up in the industry. The original Saw has a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong. It's very much kind of a 7 ripoff in many ways. It really suffers from a low budget. Tobin Bell is not in it nearly enough. I understand why, but still, it's just kind of a shame. It has gore in it, but no, I just think that's just because it's the first in the series and because it had a low budget. And also, it's very, very prototypical of the series. But again, where it shines is the storytelling, the production values, which are, again, for a $1.2 million budget, and the fact that this movie was rushed as shit. One, it doesn't really show. The only one that shows that I think, in my opinion, that it was rushed was Saw 7. But The production values are good. The performances are pretty decent, except for Lee Winnell, who just kind of hands it up sometimes. And the ending twist comes right out of nowhere, and it shocks you to your core. And it has a great final moment with Lee Winnell screaming at the door, and Tobin Bell just slams the door shut, saying, "Game over." Whoosh. Love it. Overall, the original Saw, it has a lot of problems, but it's an enjoyable movie. It's a great start to the series, and it's definitely one of the most unique, and of the early 2000s, I'd just say it's one of the best horror movies ever made. Coming in below that is Saw 4. This one, I believe, was where the Saw formula was truly cemented, but in a good way. And this is where they started really exploring the posthumous effects of a character's death, which they still do to this day with the Saw series, because technically, at the end of Saw 3, Jigsaw is killed, and he's remained dead since the end of that movie. Also, the end twist with this film revealing that Saw 4 takes place at the exact same time as Saw 3, I thought was pretty clever, and I thought it was pretty well done. But the game here is much more entertaining than it was in Saw 3. At least the character tries to save people. Unlike slow-ass motherfucking Jeff, who just kind of sat there with his thumb up his ass, and then at the very last minute, was just like, oh no, I can't save you. But at least this guy here really, really tried to save people in this game. The special effects are a big step up, too. Not to say that they were bad in 3 or 2, but they definitely did reach their quality Saw level in Saw 4. It also introduced Detective Hoffman as the series' main villain / main character, which was cool. And this one really... No, never mind, that's Saw 5. And the final but the final kill of Donnie Wahlberg getting his head smashed with 2 blocks of ice was a real doozy, and it was just like, it made me jump. Like, yo, what the fuck? And there's some gnarly ass deaths in this movie. Overall, Saw 4 was pretty damn solid. And this was the one that really, really solidified the Saw formula. And you can tell that the first 3 installments, especially the first 2, were very experimental with the series. But Saw 4 was when they were like, okay, here's how you do it, and here's how to make it successful moving forward. Which leads me into Saw 5 at number 2. Saw 5 really surprised me at how much I liked it. It basically took everything that was good about Saw 4 and then beefed it up a bit. Way better kills, way better traps, great special effects, really good performances, really engaging story. This is where they started exploring how closely Detective Hoffman and Jigsaw work together in games. And in my opinion, this has the best performance of Tobin Bell of the entire Saw series. This was where I was like, okay, now I'm really starting to get into this series. In particular, the scene where Detective Hoffman is first captured by Jigsaw, where he has the shotgun aimed at his face, and we have the whole interaction between Hoffman and Jigsaw, and it's really good at engaging and engrossing stuff. And again, Tobin Bell is just acting his ass off, and truly goes to show that he's such an underrated actor in Hollywood. He's done work, of course, and he's been around for a while, but still, I kind of just feel like he never truly got a chance to shine. But Saw 5 is the closest that he comes. You having fun there?
No.
Even though you slept for almost 11 hours. So yeah, Saw 5, I really liked it. I thought it was very engaging, very engrossing, and is of the original OG Saw series, I think it's the best. But me being me, of course, what the hell else do you think is my favorite? At number 1, my favorite of the entire Saw series is 2017's Jigsaw. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Why does this movie get so much hate?
Because it's new.
Yeah,
That's literally it.
yeah, because it's the new Saw movie, and everyone loves to shit on new installments. Anyone who says that Jigsaw is a bad movie, something's wrong with you. I really, really, really dug Jigsaw. Again, I can see someone complaining that it doesn't have enough of Tobin Bell in it, which, yeah, that's true, but the character's dead. You can only do so much flashback scenes without just making him feel like he's not dead. And yes, the final twist is very busy, very extra, and in my opinion, I think it was overkill. But outside of that, I thought it was a great return to form. It was a great the Saw series is back type film. Great effects, really, really fucking good effects. And for a $10 million budget, this movie utilized it very, very well. There's no gimmicky 3D effects. There's no bad looking practical effects. It includes a bit more digital stuff, but you know what? I think it was incorporated very well. What is that?
It's broccoli cheddar rice. I put Tabasco in it.
Ew.
I threw the chicken pieces out because, but the rest of it is delicious. Broccoli's good for you.
And this just felt like what a series should do when it goes on hiatus for a while and it lets shit breathe. And this was a great return to form. It's got good twists, and once again, the scenes with Tobin Bell are the highlight of the film. One of my favorite Jigsaw lines. It's literally just a piece of irony. Here's your key to freedom. Literally loading a shotgun shell with 2 keys, saying these are literally your keys to freedom. But because of the character's stupidity, they fuck themselves. Oh well, they're terrible people anyway. Especially the chick that smothered her own baby and framed her husband for doing it. Yep. Oh, and one thing I will say about Saw 4, it actually almost made me tear up a little bit because of the scene where John and Jill lost their son because she got squished by a drug head. So, yeah, there's credit where the credit's due. But yeah, Jigsaw is a good movie. I don't give a fuck what anybody says about it. It's got great effects. It's got a good story. It feels like a great return to form. Tobin Bell, once again, knocks it out of the park. It's a good fucking movie. Yes, the final twist is really extra, but you know what? Fuck you guys. I liked it. Jigsaw is a good movie. And with all that being said, that's all I have to say about the Saw series. Again, not much to say. I won't be reviewing the series because again, I just feel like I would be repeating myself again and again and again, just like the Friday the 13th series. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Saw series. So to reiterate, later.
You know the Tabasco made it fabulous.
Tabasco's nasty.
Some things you have, not this.
So to reiterate, ranking the Saw series at number 8 is Saw 3, which is painful. Saw 2, which is dull. Saw 7, which was rushed. Saw 6, again, was painful. Saw 1, good movie. Saw 4, really good movie. Saw 5, great movie. Saw 7, or not Saw 7, Jigsaw at number 1. It's my favorite of the series. Fuck all you Jigsaw haters out there. I thought it was good. So with all that being said, post your comments down below and let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. And look forward to my next video coming out, which not sure what it's going to be yet, but just look forward to it. And hope you all had a really good Thanksgiving. And I look forward to hopefully doing something Christmas themed, kind of. And I will see you guys in the next video. You good there? You're making food noises.
And I just